Why we're all burning out. Byung Chul Han was right. Let's get real for a moment. How many of you feel like you're running on empty? You wake up, you're already tired, and yet there's this pressure, this invisible weight that says you need to do more, be more, achieve more. It doesn't matter if you're a student, an employee, or running your own business. The grind never stops, right? But here's the question: why? Why are we all burning out? Why does it feel like no matter how much we do, it's never enough? This isn't just a random phenomenon, it's the defining condition of our time. And Byung Chul Han, a South Korean-born philosopher, nailed it when he said we live in an age of self-exploitation. Let me explain what that means. Unlike the past, when people were oppressed by external forces, kings, dictators, or oppressive systems, we're now being oppressed by something much closer to home: ourselves. We've internalized the pressure to perform, to produce, to optimize every moment of our lives. We've become our own taskmasters, and the result is a society of burned-out individuals chasing an endless cycle of productivity. But how did we get here? Han argues that the problem lies in the shift from a disciplinary society to what he calls the achievement society. In the past, people were controlled through rules, punishments, and external authority. But today, that control has been replaced by the illusion of freedom. We think we're free because we're the ones setting our goals, scheduling our tasks, and hustling to succeed. But in reality, we've turned ourselves into perpetual workers, always striving, always competing, never resting. Think about it. How often do you feel guilty for doing nothing? When was the last time you sat in silence without reaching for your phone, checking an email, or planning your next move? Han would say that this guilt comes from the way we've been conditioned to see ourselves not as human beings, but as human doings. We've bought into the idea that our worth is tied to our productivity, that we're only as valuable as the work we produce or the goals we achieve. Let me ask you this: when was the last time you felt truly free? Not the kind of freedom that comes from finishing a project or taking a vacation, but the freedom to simply exist without feeling like you need to justify your existence by being useful. Han's philosophy forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth: we're not just victims of burnout, we're complicit in it. We've embraced a culture that glorifies hustle, celebrates overwork, and equates rest with laziness. Social media doesn't help. It shows us highlight reels of people achieving more, earning more, and living what looks like perfect lives. And instead of inspiring us, it traps us in a cycle of comparison and inadequacy.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
But here's where it gets even deeper. Han argues that burnout isn't just physical exhaustion, it's existential exhaustion. It's not just your body that's tired, it's your soul. You're not just overworked, you're disconnected from yourself, from others, from the things that truly matter. And this disconnection creates a void, one that no amount of achievement can fill. So here's the big question: if burnout is the symptom, what's the disease? And more importantly, how do we cure it? In the next part, we're going to explore how the achievement society traps us in an endless loop of self-exploitation, why rest and reflection have become radical acts, and how we can begin to reclaim our humanity in a world that treats us like machines. The achievement trap: how we became slaves to ourselves. Let's dive deeper. Why do we keep pushing ourselves to the brink, even when we know it's killing us? Byung Chul Han's idea of the achievement society gives us a shocking answer. We're not being forced to work harder by external systems anymore. We've voluntarily turned our lives into an endless performance. We've become both the oppressors and the oppressed, caught in a feedback loop of self-exploitation. Think about it. Most of us have this voice in our heads that whispers, you're not doing enough. It doesn't matter how much we accomplish, there's always something more to achieve. Maybe it's a better job, more followers, a higher salary, or just keeping up with the impossible standards we've set for ourselves. But where does this voice come from? Han would argue it's rooted in the very structure of modern society. We've replaced external discipline, the kind of control that comes from authorities, bosses, or governments, with internalized pressure. In the past, people worked because they had to, because someone else was telling them to. But today we work because we want to, or at least we think we do. We've been sold the idea that success is entirely up to us, that we're free to achieve whatever we want if only we work hard enough. Sounds empowering, right? But here's the catch: this freedom is a trap. When everything becomes about personal achievement, failure is no longer just a possibility, it's a reflection of your worth. If you're not succeeding, if you're not productive, if you're not constantly improving, it feels like you're failing, not just at work, but at life. And so we push ourselves harder and harder, convincing ourselves that the next milestone, the next paycheck, or the next accomplishment will finally make us feel whole. But it never does. Let me ask you this: have you ever reached a goal you worked tirelessly for, only to feel empty afterward? Maybe you thought getting that promotion or hitting that fitness goal would make you happy, but instead, it just left you wondering, what's next? That's the achievement trap in action. It's not about the goal itself, it's about the endless pursuit. Han describes this cycle as a form of violence, not the kind of violence that's loud and obvious, but a subtle, insidious violence we inflict on ourselves. It's the violence of constant self-optimization, of treating every moment of our lives as an opportunity to be more efficient, more productive, more successful. We try to hack our mornings, cram more into our schedules, and even turn rest into a performance, tracking our sleep with apps, meditating to boost productivity, or exercising just to look good on Instagram. But here's the thing: when everything becomes a means to an end, we lose the ability to simply be. We stop seeing rest as rest or joy as joy. Instead, everything becomes part of the hustle, a way to recharge so we can work harder, a way to perform better in the endless game of self-improvement. And the worst part, we think this is freedom. Han argues that this is one of the great paradoxes of our time. We've rejected the old forms of oppression, but in doing so, we've chained ourselves to a new master ourselves. We've bought into the myth that we can do anything, be anything, achieve anything, as long as we work hard enough. And while that might sound empowering, it's also exhausting. Because when you believe you can do anything, you also believe you should do everything. And that's where the burnout begins. So, what's the way out? Han suggests that the first step is recognizing the trap for what it is. We have to see through the illusion of the achievement society and question the values it's built on. Why do we equate busyness with worth? Why do we treat rest as laziness? Why do we measure our lives by metrics, likes, followers, salaries, instead of meaningful connections or moments of peace? Here's a challenge for you: take a moment to reflect on your own life. How much of what you're doing is driven by genuine passion or purpose, and how much is driven by the pressure to perform? Are you living for yourself, or are you living for the expectations of others, or worse, the expectations you've imposed on yourself? In the next part, we'll explore why we've lost the ability to truly rest, how the constant demand to be better is robbing us of our humanity, and why reclaiming boredom and stillness might be the most radical act of resistance in today's world. The death of rest: why we fear doing nothing. By now, you might be wondering if burnout is everywhere. Why don't we just stop? Why don't we put down the endless to-do lists, take a break, and let ourselves rest? The answer is both simple and unsettling. We don't know how. Somewhere along the way, we've forgotten what rest feels like, and even worse, we've started to fear it. Byung Chul Han argues that one of the defining features of our age is the disappearance of true rest. We've turned every moment of our lives into a project, something to be optimized or monetized. Even when we're supposed to be relaxing, we're still performing. Think about it. How often do you scroll through your phone while watching TV, or feel the urge to document your leisure time on social media? We've turned rest into another form of work, a way to recharge so we can get back to the grind, rather than an end in itself. But why? Why does the idea of doing nothing make us so uncomfortable? Han would say it's because we've been conditioned to see ourselves as producers. In the achievement society, your worth is tied to your output. If you're not producing something, whether it's work, content, or even self-improvement, you start to feel like you're wasting time, like you're failing. Let me ask you this: when was the last time you allowed yourself to be truly bored? Not distracted, not entertained, just bored. For most of us, boredom feels unbearable. The moment we feel it creeping in, we reach for our phones, turn on a podcast, or find something to do. But Han believed that boredom is essential for a meaningful life. Here's why boredom creates space. It's in those empty moments, when we're not filling our minds with noise, that we can reflect, imagine, and reconnect with ourselves. It's in boredom that we can ask the big questions: what do I really want? What's important to me? Who am I when I'm not chasing the next goal? But in today's world, we've lost this space. We've filled every moment with activity, every silence with distraction. Han would say that this constant busyness is a form of violence, a way of cutting ourselves off from the deeper parts of our humanity. When we're always doing, we lose the ability to simply be. And this has profound consequences. Without rest, without moments of stillness, we lose touch with ourselves. We become strangers to our own thoughts, our own desires, our own values. We start living on autopilot, driven by external pressures and internalized expectations, rather than by any real sense of purpose. Here's the thing: true rest isn't just about stopping work, it's about reclaiming your humanity. It's about giving yourself permission to exist without constantly justifying your existence. It's about saying, I am enough, even when I'm not achieving anything. But let's be honest, this is terrifying. In a world that glorifies hustle, choosing rest can feel like rebellion. It can feel like failure. And that's exactly why it's so important. Rest isn't just about avoiding burnout, it's about resisting the toxic values of the achievement society. It's about rejecting the idea that your worth is tied to your productivity and embracing the truth that you are valuable simply because you exist. So how do we start? Han suggests that we need to relearn the art of silence and stillness. This doesn't mean meditating to be more productive or taking a vacation to recharge. It means creating space in your life where you're not trying to achieve anything. It means letting yourself get bored, sitting with your thoughts, and resisting the urge to fill every moment with activity. Here's a challenge for you: the next time you feel the urge to pick up your phone, check an email, or scroll through social media, stop. Sit with discomfort. Notice how it feels to do nothing. It might be uncomfortable at first, but over time you'll start to notice something amazing: clarity. When you stop running, you can finally see where you are and where you want to go. In the final part, we'll explore how to break free from the achievement society, why meaningful connection is the antidote to burnout, and how Byung Chul Han's wisdom can help us build a life that's not just productive, but truly fulfilling. Reclaiming our humanity, the antidote to burnout. So, How do we escape this endless cycle of burnout? How do we break free from the achievement society and reclaim what it means to be human? Byung Chul Han believed that the answer lies in shifting our focus from productivity to presence, from striving to being, and from isolation to connection. Let's start with connection. One of the most devastating effects of the achievement society is how it isolates us. When everything becomes a competition, when we're measuring ourselves against others' successes, or constantly trying to prove our worth, we lose sight of what truly matters: our relationships. Han reminds us that burnout isn't just physical or mental exhaustion, it's also emotional and spiritual. It's the feeling of being disconnected not only from ourselves but from others, from nature, and from the world. Let me ask you this: when was the last time you had a deep, unhurried conversation with someone you care about? Not a quick text exchange or a rushed chat between tasks, but a real moment of connection where you weren't thinking about your next meeting or your to-do list, but were fully present. These moments of connection are what make life meaningful, yet we've allowed them to be squeezed out by the demands of endless busyness. Han believed that reconnecting with others is one of the most powerful ways to resist burnout. This doesn't mean networking or building connections for personal gain. It means rediscovering the joy of simply being with people, of sharing experiences without any agenda or expectation. It's about seeing others not as competitors or collaborators in your hustle, but as fellow human beings. But connection alone isn't enough. To truly reclaim our humanity, we also need to reconnect with ourselves. That means creating space for silence, for stillness, and for reflection. Han argued that our obsession with productivity has robbed us of the ability to truly think, to dream, and to wonder. When was the last time you let your mind wander without trying to get something done? Here's a radical idea: what if we stopped treating our lives as projects to be managed and started seeing them as mysteries to be lived? What if we stopped trying to optimize every moment and started embracing the beauty of simply existing? This is what Han calls contemplative life, a way of being that values depth over speed, quality over quantity, and presence over productivity. And finally, we need to redefine what success means. The achievement society tells us that success is about doing more, earning more, and being more. But what if success is actually about less? Less striving, less stress, less pressure to prove ourselves. What if success is about finding peace not in achieving everything, but in appreciating what we already have? So here's the challenge: let go. Let go of the need to constantly achieve. Let go of the belief that your worth is tied to your productivity. Let go of the fear of doing nothing. Instead, embrace rest. Embrace connection. Embrace the quiet moments where life isn't about what you're doing, but about who you are. We are not machines. We are not defined by our output. We are human beings, and our value lies in our ability to love, to create, and to simply be. Byung Chul Han was right: burnout is the symptom of a society that has lost its way. But it's also a wake-up call, a chance to reclaim our humanity and build a life that's not just productive, but truly fulfilling. So, the next time you feel the pressure to do more, ask yourself, what kind of life am I building? And more importantly, is it the life I truly want?